There are many more details to the East Africa operations that have been omitted from this brief review. The point here is first, to remind the reader that the East Africa bombings in August of 1998 were definitely organized by Al-Qaeda. The operation was ordered by Abu Hafs al-Masri, also known as Mohammed Atef, Al-Qaeda's number 2, and organized locally by Abu Muhammad al-Masri, Al-Qaeda's number 3. Bin Laden's direct role in the attack is unclear. Some accounts indicate bin Laden was personally involved in the planning of the bomb plot, as he had been interested in attacking U.S. embassies in Kenya from the early 1990s. Others, like Fadil Haroun, say that planning was conducted by himself, along with Abu Muhammad al-Masri, and that bin Laden was informed of the timing and targets only a few days in advance. According to Fadil Haroun, Abu Hafs had originally asked Abu Muhammad al-Masri to target U.S. warships in the port of Mogadishu. But when it became clear that the U.S. Navy would not turn up in Mombasa in 1998, Abu Muhammad al-Faroun and Fadil Haroun decided on targeting U.S. embassies. They also made the decision to target not just one, but 2 embassies simultaneously. The truth of bin Laden's involvement in operational aspects of the attacks remain unclear even today. This is an important observation in itself, as it will be further discussed later. Second point is that Al-Qaeda was not dependent on their Taliban sanctuary in Afghanistan to carry out these attacks. The composition of the operational cells in Kenya and Tanzania suggests the attacks were organized mainly outside Afghanistan by Al-Qaeda's East African branch. The organizational expertise and resources required to carry out the attacks were mainly developed during Al-Qaeda's first Afghanistan phase in 1998 and 1992. In this period, Al-Qaeda ran training camps in Khost, and Al-Qaeda was co-located with the Egyptian Islamic Jihad and Amalgama Islamiyah. Both groups had long experience in urban and international terrorist operations, and it is likely that their experiences were transferred to Al-Qaeda. The Egyptian Islamic Jihad contributed directly to the attack in Dar es Salaam by allowing one of their experienced operatives, Ahmed al-Nami, to be part of the attack cell. Al-Qaeda used the Afghanistan sanctuary to recruit and train 2 Saudi operatives, Azam and Muhammad al-Ohali. They were the only members of the plot who were recruited after 1996. Azam and al-Ohali trained at the Kaldeen training camp and Al-Qaeda's training camps in Jihad Wal. They may have fought in Arab units in the Taliban's front line north of Kabul in 1997, like many other Arabs who came to Afghanistan in this period, looking for a place to wage jihad. After being recruited, Azam and al-Ohali were probably trained in terrorist tactics in Al-Qaeda's training camps in Afghanistan. However, in this period, these camps and their access points, the porous border between the tribal areas of Afghanistan and Khost, were hardly a matter of priority for the Taliban. As we recall from Chapter 6 in 1997, the Taliban were experiencing major artillery setbacks in northern Afghanistan and on the front line north of Kabul. In sum, the East Africa bombings had an extremely small footprint in Afghanistan. The East African operation had several implications for Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. The most immediate effect was the destruction of Al-Qaeda's training camp's infrastructure in Khost on August 20th, 1998. However, U.S. missile strikes failed to kill any high-ranking Al-Qaeda leaders. It had no major disruptive effects on Al-Qaeda's training camps and their project. Al-Qaeda soon moved their training camps to temporary locations before settling in Kandahar in the spring of 2000. Instead of disrupting Al-Qaeda's activities in Afghanistan, the U.S. missile strikes had the opposite effect of making bin Laden an instant celebrity, both locally and internationally. This in turn made it harder for the Taliban to expel him. The East Africa bombings was the first international terrorist attack with confirmed links to Al-Qaeda. Yet the Taliban in Afghanistan refused to believe that bin Laden had anything to do with the bombings. This is understandable. The bombings were organized and carried out by a small group of trusted individuals within Al-Qaeda. But bin Laden used middlemen based outside Afghanistan to coordinate the attacks, presumably to hide his own role in the operation. Although traditional terrorism is aimed at generating maximum publicity, placing the perpetrators and their political agenda at center stage, Al-Qaeda acted somewhat differently. The 1998 attacks appeared to be a mixture of terrorism and covert operation, aimed at protecting bin Laden's status as a guest within the Taliban. The 1998 attacks and their aftermath no doubt boosted Al-Qaeda's confidence. The U.S. missile strikes on August 20th had failed to kill bin Laden, and the Taliban were disinterested in exploring the matter further. The Taliban took an uncompromising stance on bin Laden, refusing to expel him in spite of international pressure and sanctions. This was a gesture of large symbolic significance. Islamists in the region, no doubt, remember how the Pakistan government had expelled Arab Mujahideen to face torture in their home countries in the 1990s, and how they expelled Ramzi Youssef, a Muslim, to the infidel United States in 1995. Bin Laden himself no doubt remembered how he had been betrayed and expelled by the Sudanese regime in 1996 after investing heavily in the country. Feeling confident, Al-Qaeda in 1999 embarked on a period of reorganization and expansion. After the East Africa bombings, Al-Qaeda's East Africa network was dismantled, and the remaining operatives moved to Afghanistan. They included Abu Muhammad al-Masri, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, after Abu Hafs and Fadil Haroun, who were appointed as Abu Hafs' secretary. Abu Abd al-Rahman, the Egyptian who built the bombs, used in 1998, continued working in Al-Qaeda as a bomb engineer and explosives instructor. This ensured that Al-Qaeda's experiences during the East African attack were transferred to the next generation of Al-Qaeda cadre. In late 1999, Al-Qaeda organized a cadre course, a clear indication that the organization was in the process of expansion. Veterans from the East Africa operation were represented among the instructors. Abu Muhammad al-Masri gave a lecture entitled Palestine and the World Politics. Fadil Haroun lectured on the East Africa operation, and Abu Abd al-Rahman gave explosives lessons. The course finished just in time for the inauguration of Al-Qaeda's new flagship project, the new Al-Farouk training camp in Kandahar. By now, Al-Qaeda had gradually changed its role in Afghanistan, from a secret organization to services office for incoming volunteers. Bin Laden's confidence and optimism is reflected in a speech to Al-Qaeda's leadership in September of 2000. Quote, after the 1998 operation was succeeded in mobilizing the masses, we expect huge waves of recruits within months. Treat the matter as if we are an Islamic government in exile. We move from the phase of potentiality to the phase of expansion and preparedness and large responsibilities, end quote. In August and September of 2000 alone, more than 120 new recruits arrived to Kandahar to train in Al-Qaeda's camps. Bin Laden had reason to be optimistic. His sanctuary with the Taliban was also safe for the time being. In November of 1999, the Taliban had again refused to expel bin Laden to the United States, even when threatened with UN sanctions. Time was ripe for a new covert operation against the United States.